want to start today's video with a shout out to Tom Jackson, who just became a subscriber to my channel. So thank you for that, Tom, who is the proprietor of Healthy Solutions in Ipperwash. He's one of my native buddies, my native brothers. And I like to remind his staff that I'm a frequent flyer. But anyway, he's great. So thanks, Tom. I appreciate it, man. Looking forward to see it again real soon, 3 to 4 days. But as for today's talk, I'm looking out at a bunch of wind turbines, and it makes and farmland. I mean, where I live is well, I think it's just heard somebody's dog they're walking their dog around over there by the tracks. But you know, where I live is well, I love it. I love it here. It's called forest, but it's really kind of in the middle of a cornfield. You know, Roundup Ready GMO corn. And it's also because we're right off the lake, there's a bazillion wind turbines. And which, you know, when you know the truth about that, like what it makes me want to talk about is the whole greenwashing and basically environmental scam that is, well, not climate change. Climate change is real. Climate change happens. And yes, it's driven by a certain amounts of carbon, or you know, combinations of carbon and oxygen. But here's where I want to kind of go off into geoengineering, which again is it's a conspiracy theory that we're trying to geoengineer the planet. But in order for us to graduate from a type 0 civilization to a type 1 civilization, which is, I don't know, it was a Russian guy, I can never remember what it is, a Russian word, Russian dude. and sorry if that, you can hear that dog. I mean, you know, I didn't think that was too loud though. Seems like he's having fun. Yeah, anyway, on that particular scale, we are type 0. Well, I think we're around like a 0.75 or something. But a type 1 civilization, so let me give you a breakdown of how this works. There's type 3, although Michio Kaku said that a little kid reminded him that there is type 4, and type 4 would be kind of God. So, you know, I'm not sure about that. But anyway, that aside, we're a type 0.75. Which means we haven't graduated to use all of the Earth's energy, which we haven't. Like, so for example, Jellystone Park, right? Where there's you know, it's a super volcano. But that would also be an excellent place for geothermal energy to be used. We don't do anything smart at all. We do things stupid, and it's all driven by profit, like wind turbines that are way bigger than they need to be. I've seen guys on the internet make a wind turbine out of an old DeWalt. Pardon me. So the idea being, if you can spin a magnet around copper, you're going to make electricity. That's DC energy versus AC energy. The reason we use AC energy is because you can extend AC energy over greater distance. And the reason for that is because when Tesla invented wireless energy, he basically, he created the Tesla Tower, which was inspired by the Pyramid of Giza. So it's a very good chance that that's what the Pyramid at Giza was. It was some sort of free energy device, which would also make sense because, like I said before, that was a huge endeavor. And layered rocks, like, I mean, we've seen a very picked over Pyramid at Giza. All the gold missing and probably made into King Tut's helmet or dagger and whatnot. Sorry. Yeah, that's it's the Kardashev scale. So again, we are at a 0.75. So Tesla created the pyramid. No, sorry. Tesla did not create the pyramid. But Tesla created his Tesla Tower on the idea that you could draw energy from the earth itself, like lightning and aquifers, like water underneath. You know, that's outside my pay grid to understand Tesla. But what's interesting about Tesla is that he was basically ruined by J.P. Morgan because, and this goes back to ties into the AC thing. When he proposed this DC idea of energy, J.P. Morgan famously said, "Well, where do I put the meter? Like, you need a wire. If there's no wire, there's no dependency." Almost literally like an umbilical cord, right? But Tesla insisted that, I mean, wireless was more magical, like kind of truly magical, in fact. And in a lot of ways, superior. So the reason that we created AC energy is so that we could build. It was for the dam at Niagara. Like, so there's a Canadian history here. It is always forgotten. Like, that's the thing about Americans, like Trump, have no idea our Canadian heritage and what we did. Like, we were always in wars before everyone else. In fact, in World War II, we got so far behind enemy lines that they basically were stranded. Like, Canadians go batshit crazy in war like the berserkers of old because it's in our blood. Vikings. On my mother's side. My father's side, like, my name Divine is Northern Irish Catholic. But anyway, all that aside. So he created wireless technology and a wired technology, and why he pitched the AC, which Thomas Edison fought him on, right? Like, Thomas Edison would use shock. He would electrocute like an elephant or a horse or a tiny little puppy or whatever and say, "Look at that Tesla, he's making me do this evil," right? Crazy. But anyways, so JP Morgan basically ruined Tesla. And interestingly enough, the FBI has all of his files, which I think is sort of, again, who are you to keep Tesla's files? Tesla was arguably one of the greatest minds ever. When Albert Einstein was asked, what's it like to be the smartest man on the planet? He said, well, you'd have to ask Tesla. because Tesla really was kind of next level, in fact, like very much next level. So the thing about wireless technology is that it frees you, right? Like, and again, like I've mentioned before, our grid is antiquated. I remember when there was a huge ice storm in Quebec and Eastern Ontario, and when we lived in Eastern Ontario, hydroelectricity was really cheap, right? Because, well, as Doug Ford would like to tell everybody, we got a lot of hydro electricity. And really what hydroelectricity is just a water reservoir that's at height, which is another thing that we have. Like, Canada has more fresh water than anybody. And, you know, he could be using that water so much better, like with gray water systems and black water systems. The black water systems could be fed into biodigesters and create methane, which then can be burned and be carbon neutral, right? We can avoid using billion-year-old carbon. We don't need to use the oil sands per se. I would argue we could probably produce as much oil by planting hemp in the north, because as the north gets warmer and warmer, it's releasing methane. So it would be a good thing to, you know, grow something up there that can suck that up, and that's something that hemp is particularly good at. Like, hemp should be a part of a crop rotation. Like, again, this is off topic, but the war on drugs was ridiculous, and hemp should have never been criminalized. That was simply the plastic industry trying to eliminate its competition. But yeah, before I go too far off on that, so we can be doing a lot with hemp, because it sequesters carbon. So, and really what we want to do is we do want to cool the earth down. Now, it is heating, so we should try to, you know, do all we can to stop that process. And I think a huge component of that is how we grow things, and what we grow, and why we grow it, and how we grow it. So I'm going to marry up a couple of things here. Like, firstly, I think that I agree with Doug Ford that tech should be a compulsory, oh my God, you know what I'm trying to say. Compulsory credit. Oh my God. Easy for me to say. I agree with him on that. However, he also, you know, he didn't care to fund it in any way or whatever. So, and I also agree with Justin Trudeau on two things. Legalizing marijuana, because how can a plant be illegal? For a couple reasons. I mean, give me a break. And it's obviously not a Schedule 1 drug, like heroin or, you know, cocaine, whatever. It has medicinal qualities. But aside from that, hemp doesn't. Well, hemp produces CBD oil, and it produces a lot of it, actually. Hemp is an incredible resource. So it sequesters carbon. Every bit of the plant can be used. We could be feeding animals, instead of feeding animals GMO corn, which gets into, like, we got to outlaw, like the rest of the European community. We need to get on board with the idea that Monsanto is actually poison. And this is what, you know, Make America Healthy Again is all about. Because all of this is tied into diet. I have type 2 diabetes, and the reason I have type 2 diabetes is because I've eaten garbage for the majority of my life. Because, you know, although I've never been a single guy, well, mostly, but I've also kind of lived on the road a lot. And living on the road, you eat fast food, and it's terrible for you. Well, anyway, I'm totally going off there. But we could be feeding our animals hemp leaf. We can actually eat it. You can eat the seeds; they're very healthy. Every part of the hemp plant can be used. The fibers make incredible. Well, it used to be in I think it was George Washington insisted that everyone grow hemp in rotation, because it was so important for sailing and building canvas, sails and ropes and all that, which it does very, very well. And we should start doing that again, because if we started making hemp products, we would be sequestering all that carbon and locking it away. And that's what we should actually try to think about that. Like, we can, we can do a lot of things with one medium that checks a bunch of boxes. And that would be hemp. But the whole idea behind the green economy is this. So in the future, well, we should have a cross-Canada grid, which we've never had. But with that, we should also have a fiber optic system. We should consider doing that underground in case, like I was talking about Dr. Robert Schoch, or any of those guys can confirm that we could have a Tegusti style event at any point where something blows up and takes out the grid, which could also be done with a nuclear weapon. Not to put too fine a point on it, but that's the idea behind EMP. So, obviously we got to stop playing with all that kind of stuff. We obviously need world peace, and for, Russia's not our enemy, China's not our enemy, Iran's not our enemy. In fact, China is selling solar panels so cheaply now that we really can, like, this is the thing that I'm going with this, is that we can be independently efficient with a solar roof, a solar or an electric vehicle or a hybrid vehicle. There's so many different kind of technologies out there that are really quite literally busting at the bit to get out. Hydro, like, so for example, with wind and solar, any excess energy that we're creating that we're not using, we could also store as HHO gas. So what HHO gas is when you and some companies are creating cars that do this now. Well, Stanley Meyer did it years ago and disappeared. Well, actually, he died in front of a restaurant saying they killed me, they poisoned me. So take that however you want to, but he did invent a car that it seemed ran on water, and it probably was something like this, that it took just standard water, and you pass an electrical current through it, and it splits the water into HHO gas, and then you can collect that gas, which is hydrogen basically, and then use that as a fuel for something else. Or just store it, and you have hydrogen. So, and this is the other part of that. So, we could have systems in our homes where we are completely energy independent. So imagine if in your kitchen you remember the old garbage disposals? I'm old enough to remember, some people had those. I always thought they were awesome. Just grind up whatever, But we could bring those back and bring with that a black water and biodigestive system. So what that would do is that would take all of our kitchen waste, all of our bathroom waste, aka poo and, you know, all that stuff. And it would turn it into a methane gas. And also basically it produces like, I think they call it slog or something. But it's like a really like a pitch that you can, you know, it's like great fertilizer. It's poo fertilizer, but you know, it takes a while to cure it and whatever. But also mixed with other soil and other fertilizers would be great. So, and then, you know, gray water systems so that you can, you know, use your shower water or whatever to water your flowers, etc. You know, so everything we do is pretty stupid. And we need to change that. Like, that's the I guess, sort of the real bottom line is that if we want to graduate on the Kardashev scale, we need to start sequestering oxygen and sequestering carbon and producing more oxygen. So in other words, a greening of the earth. So, and that comes into permaculture and that idea. So like, again, I live in a very open farmland, which is great. It's a you know, I know a lot of farmers and they produce a lot of food around here. Although unfortunately, most of it is grain for cattle. Which seems silly. Like we could be using this better, which we could actually with greenhouses and permaculture. And so you're, you know, creating areas like, for example, in forests and surrounding area, because it's all these farmer fields. In the wintertime, we get crazy drifting. So if the farmers were to build a row of, you know, fruit trees or some other thing that they could, that, you know, creates a bit of a buffer zone for the snow to collect, right? And even a series of this, we could, you know, we really haven't explored a lot of new technology in farming. Like we're starting to, and I mean, there's some really exciting stuff. Like, you know, I mean, you could literally at this point, you could create a Mona Lisa of tulips in your field. You know, like that you can see with a drone. That would be, you know, beautiful from above. So, I mean, again, Canada has all the gifts. Canada has all the gifts. It also has, you know, pretty good minds. Although the reality is that our, you know, like again, I'm a tech teacher, so high school tech teacher, so I'm a little biased when it comes to technology. But education, as far as that goes, like I really do think that the Rockefeller model of education to make everyone basically mindless worked too well, and this is why we are in the mess that we're in with everything in the world. It's, you know, our Trump derangement syndrome or Trudeau derangement syndrome, or Trump now wanting to, you know, take over every part of the planet. Apparently, like now he wants the Gaza Strip to make Las Vegas. Like, again, Trump is such a wild card, and like it's no, you can't do that. You can't have Greenland, you know. And also, here's the other part of that, is America doesn't need any more land. Canada doesn't need any more land, and either does Russia. Like, Putin's like, are you kidding me with the Ukraine? We don't need any more land. We're already huge. Like Russia, it's underpopulated. Like, we're underpopulated in Canada. And like I mentioned the other day, if we created a super highway, super grid all across the planet, again, which should be buried because that would help against the MPs of any kind of sort, but that would keep the you know, the energy there, the internet in there. Like, I mean, we live in an age where the internet should be a right, you know, like the CBC is supposed to be a right. You're supposed to have a right to an informed and electorate, and we obviously don't have that. You know, don't have anyone that's informed about anything at this point. So, you know, like, let's just have some new ideas about things. How about that?